guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today let's review Season 5 of classic Doctor Who. We are solidly in the Troughton era now. Now, Season 5 is a good season. It is a step down from Season 4. Season 4 has a lot of creativity going on in it. If you saw my Let's Review on Season 4, if not, check it out. But there's a lot of changes we had that season and a lot of creative decisions being made, not only with the entire main cast changing out, but the direction and format of the show changed, with us getting away from pure historicals, easing into more Base Under Siege stuff, much more creative writing happening. Season 5 is much more cookie cutter. Don't get me wrong, it's good cookie cutting, but it is a step back creatively. We have a lot of Base Under Siege in Season 5. That's kind of Season 5's shtick. It's still a good season. I'm not trying to say it isn't, but it is a step down creatively, I think, from what we got in Season 4. I much prefer Season 4 over Season 5. Season 5 is still really good, and we have over the half of the season intact now, thanks to the recovery of most of Web of Fear and Enemy of the World. And we have some good stories. But our cast mainly stays solid with, of course, being the second Dr. Jamie and Victoria most of the season, with Victoria leaving in the penultimate story, and then Zoe coming in the Wheel in Space at the end of the season. But it is nice to give us a chance to grow with these characters, learn more about the second Doctor, who Troughton's really settled into the role completely by this point. And Jamie knows what he's doing with, or Frasier knows what he's doing with Jamie. I like Jamie a lot. I'm not the biggest fan of Victoria. Deborah's great in what she's doing, but I'm just not a fan of Victoria. I much prefer Zoe, honestly. Let's look at the stories for this season. We start off with Tomb of the Cybermen, which for the long time held the reputation of being the only complete Troughton story before Season 6. And it's a nice 4-parter. I'm glad it's only 4 parts. Like every single story this season, or at least most of the stories this season, I think it's overrated. There are a couple stories this season that doesn't get that much attention, that doesn't really deserve it either. But I think even the best stories this season might get a little too much praise. Tomb is one of those. It's good. I like it. The second Doctor causes some of the problems he has to fix because his insatiable curiosity. But I think it's got a good cast. I'm still not keen on the Cybermen design here, or the Cybermen voice work, but they still look all right. I enjoy some of the iconic shots of it, like the Cybermen waking up, of course, and that wonderful speech between the second Doctor and Victoria talking about her father is amazing. I absolutely love that as well. It's, again, good performances. I just feel like this one gets a little more praise than it deserves because it's one of the few complete Troughton stories, especially before Season 6 Troughton stories. And I think it's very telling that when this story was initially recovered back in the 90s, that it was considered a letdown, that people had built up such a memory of it in their heads that this is a missing classic, it's a lost classic, that when it was finally recovered and they got to see it again, it didn't quite live up to what they had in their head. I think that's forgotten a lot today, where people are again praising Tomb as one of the best ever. I think a lot of people either have forgotten, or people who were just too young to know, that when the story was initially recovered, it was a bit of an anticlimax, that it didn't quite live up to people's memory of it. And that's how it is for me. It just doesn't quite live up to the hype it gets, honestly. And then we have The Abominable Snowmen, which I really like. I think that's a strong story this season. Basically the first of 2 stories we'll get in this season dealing with the Great Intelligence. I think the animation for this is really good. I'd never seen Abominable Snowmen before the animation. I had read the novel, which is good. I did like the novel a lot. The animation is good, though. I like the liberties it takes. I like the fact that it makes the guest cast look more indigenous the way they should. I don't care for all the changes made to them, like deciding to give a guy a beard, to give a guy a scar, to give a guy glasses. You didn't need all of that. But I do like the fact they look more like the indigenous people they're supposed to be. Of course, in the regular production, it was white people playing these actors because that's just how TV was done these days. I don't have an issue with that or that's how TV was done in those days. I don't have an issue with that because I understand that's just how TV was made then. But I do like the fact that they gave them a more appropriate look and made them look like indigenous people there should have at the time. I appreciate that. It is a little jarring trying to watch the surviving episode 2 with the animation due to that, because I'm sitting there going, wait a minute, who's, because they did make people look so much different with the beards and the glasses and the scars. I'm not quite sure. It's a little harder to follow. I still like episode 2 on its own, but I watch it more as an island. Whereas if I'm watching the whole story, I watch it completely animated. The black and white version's good and the colorist version is good. I enjoy both. I think I actually do prefer the color version for this story, because which version I prefer varies from story to story. I think I do prefer the color version of this story because since I am watching it completely animated, but the black and white version is also good. I really like the Great Intelligence as a villain in this, how he's not revealed until like, I think the end of episode 4 maybe. I forget right off. The animation style with him looks really, really good. Given that shrunken, almost mummy look actually works for it really, really well. And I love the fact how the actor playing him does the voices different, where when he's speaking with one voice, you know it's actually the high priest. But when it's speaking with the other voice, you know it's the Great Intelligence. I actually really like how the actor differentiates between who is speaking with those. The final battle between the Great Intelligence and the Second Doctor is realized very well in the animation as well. I really like that. And then, of course, I like meeting Travers. I really like him a lot as a character. I'm glad we get him back in Web of Fear. It's a really good story. I actually really like The Abominable Snowman. One of the few stories, one of the rare shots where you might have an underrated story this season. Now, I don't remember exactly all of the order season 5 goes in, so I may not get them quite in order. Next, we'll talk about Enemy of the World. Wonderful to have this recovered. I still think it's overrated, which is odd because before it was recovered, it didn't have a very good reputation. But having watched it a couple times, I still think it's a little overrated maybe now. It's still good. Troughton is putting in several good performances in this. I tend not to like when a doctor or companion has a doppelganger, basically where the actor is playing dual roles, because you know somebody's going to get mistaken for somebody else at some point. It just seems old hat and tropey, especially by today's standards, and I find it so unrealistic, it just irks me, with the only exception to this I can think of off the top of my head being Meglos, because Meglos, it's actually pivotal to the plot for why Tom Baker is playing dual roles in that. It's actually part of the plot and makes sense, whereas here, much like in The Massacre here, it's just a coincidence, and same thing with Black Orchid. Now, all that always kind of rubs me the wrong way. Still, it's a good performance, or good performances from Troughton, and I enjoy the story well enough. It drags a little bit at 6 parts, perhaps. Maybe you could have trimmed it down to 4 or 5, but it's still fine. Second Doctor tends to mostly be good stories to one degree or another. Then, of course, we have the Ice Warriors, which is a slog for me to get through. I don't dislike the Ice Warriors, but I find it's kind of like watching the Daleks. It just drags for me. This could have been a 4-parter, really a 4-parter. The animation for episodes 2 and 3 is fine. I like it. I think it's pretty good. The animation of the actual Ice Warriors, and it looks a little to me, but the rest of it's fine. I enjoy it. Troughton looks like Troughton. I like the guy who's always trying to rely on the computer. I don't know why. Just the actor playing him. I really like him in this. But yeah, it's just, I find this one a little dull. At least it's mostly intact, being 2/3 intact. But I find it a little dull. And then we move into Web of Fear, which is another one in that category of good but overrated. That's the Web of Fear for me. I think the Web of Fear is really good, but I always find it doesn't quite live up to its hype. although not by much. And I don't know why I feel that way. It's well made. I rewatched it and reviewed it recently, actually. And it looks good. These sets down in the subway lines or wherever it is they are, sewers, wherever it is, look really good. Look really, really good. The lighting and everything is really good. The performances are really good. It's nice, again, to have Professor Trevor's back. It's nice to meet his daughter. It's a wonderful introduction to the Brigadier. I wish we had episode 3 where he's actually introduced. But Nicholas Courtney is on fire playing the Brigadier in this one. I love how trusting he is of the Doctor immediately. I love the fact that the Brigadier always seems more trusting of the second Doctor than he is the third Doctor. I love that a lot. And I also like the captain here. I can't remember his name. Rex, is that it? Captain Rex? I can't remember if that's his name or if I'm thinking of Star Wars. But whatever, the captain who gets killed, I liked him. I always hate that he dies. I like the actor playing him. He did really good. And I actually really, really enjoy the Web of Fear. It's a nice, almost unit story before we get unit stories. It comes together well. I don't know why. To me, I find it slightly overrated. I can't fully explain it, but I do. While also still thinking it's really, really good. One of the best stories of the season. Then we move into... what all have I covered here? Let's see. We did Tomb, Abominable Snowmen, Ice Warriors, Enemy of the World, Web. So we have 2 more. Okay, so Fury from the Deep would be the next one. Fury from the Deep. Fury from the Deep has what is quite possibly the best story of the season. I actually really love the story from Fury from the Deep. The sentient seaweed that is possessing people and manipulating people and what it's doing to them. The atmosphere of the story. I really love that. Fury from the Deep has a lot going for it. But it also has the crappy animation. That just kills Fury from the Deep for me. The animation is so bad. I can watch the Recon. It's a little hard to get through because it's 6 episodes of Recon, and that's just asking. That's asking a lot, in my opinion. But the animation is not good. I really feel like if you had BBC Studios do the animation for this one, it would have went over much better. Because Fury from the Deep has such a good story, but the decisions made with that animation, one, you have that Scooby-Doo stylized look. Like, seriously, I'm over there going, Scooby-Dooby-Doo, where are you? We got some work to do now. Every time I'm looking at the animation. The very thick lines on the outlines, these very thick lines. Troughton looks weird. He doesn't really look like Troughton. I don't know why it bothers me, because it doesn't bother me in Abominable Snowmen, even though it looks kind of the same. Maybe I just adjusted to it. I don't know. Now, the team that made this story have made other stories, and I like the animation of the others. I like the animation of Galaxy 4. It's not perfect, but I like it. I like the animation of the Abominable Snowmen quite a bit, actually. Even though it takes kind of that same approach. I think part of the problem here is you can tell it's rushed, and it very much is. It was a troubled production. It was a rushed production. And that shows the characters having the 2 long arms, which is not something I think you notice till it's pointed out, but once it's pointed out, you can't unsee it. So you're welcome if you have never noticed it before. The South Park movements sometimes, like when the Doctor and Jamie pick up the couch and throw it out the window, it looks like South Park animation. It looks so bad. The scene when they're all, I think it's one of the cliffhangers, when they're all just standing kind of in a row, looking at the glass of seaweed. That's not how people stand like that. Some of the movements are really jerky. Some of the shots, like when they all get shot and knocked out with tranquilizers at the beginning, looks really weird. And then how they changed a lot of these sets and opened them up to make them larger. I feel like Gary Russell and the team really misunderstood the point of the story, because enlarging everything and making the spaces bigger kind of takes away from the claustrophobic nature of the story. I would imagine those kind of rigs they're on would be very cramped, almost like a submarine in a way, because you don't have a lot of space. You got to utilize it all. I don't think they would be these wide open areas. And again, you want to increase the atmosphere and the tension by having them crammed in and everything not very well lit. So I feel like the story loses that tone. If you ever want to understand how bad the animation is, watch the one surviving scene from episode 2. You know the ones I'm talking about, when Oak and Quill basically gas the professor, doctor, whatever he is, his wife. If you watch the surviving clip, it's terrifying. It's so spooky and scary and so well done what they're doing to her. I mean, it's creepy. And then you watch the animated version of it, and it comes across as a parody. It just comes across as a parody. It does not communicate the fear and terror of that moment at all, the way the surviving footage does. And that's pretty much a one-for-one example of the problem I have with the Fury from the Deep animation, which is such a shame, because the story is quite possibly the best story of the season. Such a shame. And then we have The Wheel in Space, which is a bit of a letdown. I still think The Wheel in Space is fine from a narrative standpoint. I'm not saying it's stellar. It's certainly not S tier, but it's fine. I enjoyed it. I watched it just recently, watching the recons and the surviving episodes. I do like the fact the final episode exists. That does mean a lot to me when a final episode survives, as it does in this case. But the recon is a little hard to get through. I like they added in some CGI stuff for it, but they reuse a lot of existing shots, and it just gets annoying seeing those existing shots a lot, especially shots from surviving episodes of like somebody walking through a door or something. It just gets annoying seeing those over and over. So the recon was very hard to get through for this one for me. But the 2 surviving episodes were nice. I did enjoy those. I like the cut down animation of episode 1 that was included with the Macroterra a lot. I think this story would go up in my estimation if it got animated, especially if it got animated to a quality similar to the cut down episode, which it won't be. But if it does, if it's anywhere near that quality, I think I will be happy. It won't be. They really need Sun and Moon Studios back. But I would like to see that. I enjoyed the surviving episodes and thought the story was fine. I think it's a little better than its reputation, at least. It's just, if this story was complete, I think it would be held in higher esteem. I will say that. So yeah, I like Season 5, but there's not a lot just blowing me away from this season like some of Season 4 did, or even some of Season 6 does. There are good stories in this season. I don't know if there's anything S tier. There's a couple things that might be knocking on the door of S tier, like, say, Web of Fear, Fury from the Deep if it had good animation. Maybe Abominable Snowmen. But I don't know if there's anything that is just blowing the doors off for me, that I'm just like, essential Doctor Who right here. Like, I would call Tomb essential, but more just because it's a rare surviving Troughton story than because I think it's actually good. So, like last time, we're going to end this by ranking the stories. We have 7 stories this time. We're going to rank from worst to best. In last place, Fury from the Deep. And it's down to the animation. Because, again, it could be the best story of the season. I love the story. The animation, hot garbage. Hot garbage. I don't blame the team who made it. Obviously, there were budget problems, time constraint problems, and they have proven to me with later efforts that they have the talent to do these good animations. I have an issue with the stylistic choice of the animation and the enlargement of the sets that should have been smaller. I think that's more down to Gary Russell. I have issues with that, but just the end result of the animation is poor. We honestly need another attempt at a Fury from the Deep special edition animation. We truly do. So that one goes at the bottom. Next on the list is Wheel in Space. And again, I think that's due to so much of it being missing. I love that we have 2 episodes of it, including the final episode. That does help it a bit. But considering how much I like the surviving episodes, I feel like if I had more of this intact, or if I had this animated, I would appreciate it more. It's just a little hard to get through with those recons. In 5th place, we have the Ice Warriors. It's dull. It's just dull. It's not very interesting. The Seeds of Death is a much better story for the Ice Warriors. Their first outing here is, it's okay, but dull. I like it well enough, but dull. Number 4 on the list is Enemy of the World. Again, I like it. It's good. It's a little too long. And I find myself wavering and getting distracted by my phone when watching it. Oh, Enemy of the World. Ooh, somebody's commented on the YouTube channel. It's just hard it's hard for it to keep my attention, despite being a good story. It's not like top tier Doctor Who for me. Next on the list is Tomb of the Cybermen in third place. Again, overrated. Good. Some great moments. A bit overrated. And again, I don't like the Cybermen design or the cyber voices. I can't hardly understand what they're saying in it, to be honest with you. But a good cast as well. In second place is the Web of Fear. Again, don't know quite why I find this a little overrated, but I do. Great sets, great casting, good story. I like a lot of this one. It does kind of take a while to get through its 6 parts. I think it fills out its 6 parts well, but it does take a lot to get through them. The animated episode 3, the black and white version of it is okay. Watching it in color by itself, it's pretty bad, but when I was watching the whole story and I watched the black and white version, it was fine. It got me through the episode. It was better than I thought it was going to be, I'll put it that way. Good story. Close maybe to knocking on S tier, but I'm not sure if it's actually there. And then my favorite of the season is probably The Abominable Snowmen. And yes, I realize the irony that only 1 episode of that exists, but I do like the animation for it as well. Again, the team did a really good job with this one, in my opinion. It looks really, really good. I like the climactic battle at the end. I think it's a really good villain. I like Troughton in this story. The surviving episode is really nice. I wish they would find more of it, actually, because I do actually find this one pretty fun. This might be the one underrated story of the season. Well, it and Will, I guess. So that's probably my favorite of Season 5 is The Abominable Snowmen. Just barely beating out The Web of Fear. They're both really good. So, Season 5 of Classic Doctor Who, which is, I know, oftentimes heralded as Troughton's best. It's actually my personal least favorite of his, while still being a good season. I just find it to be a little uninspired, a little cookie cutter, though it's good cookie cutter, and not enough. I mean, there's some variety in the settings of the stories, but I wish we had less Base Under Siege and maybe another pure historical in there would have been nice. So Season 5, what do you think about it? Comment down below and let's talk about it. I also have a P.O. box. If there's anything you would like to send me to look at and review, check that out down in the description. A link to my Amazon wishlist is down there. A link to my Amazon UK wishlist is also down there. Looking forward to getting more of these standard sets in. Actually, several of them are on the list there, as is the Season 1 Steelbook that I very much hope someone will send because I can't afford it right now. You know how it is in 2024. And I also have a Patreon if you would like to support me that way. There's a link to that down there as well. I want to give a shout out to one of my top tier patrons, Colin Coney. I appreciate his support, as I do the support of all of my patrons and my YouTube members, each and every one of you. Some of y'all have been with me for quite a while, and it's very much appreciated. I also would just appreciate if you click the like button or the subscribe button. That also is a big help, and helps get my videos out there for more people to see, and is very much appreciated. Most importantly, thank you for watching. Hey guys, Prowl 1701 here, and today let's review Season 5 of Classic Doctor Who. So we are in the Troughton era, and a lot of people would herald the Troughton era as